Welcome back to the Caniac Chronicles, folks. I'm your chronicler, Andy, and this is episode 16 of season 1. So, I do apologize for not posting last night. Wednesday, the Canes were playing the late night game, the national game on HBO with the Minnesota Wild. Fortunately, didn't come out with a win there, but they did manage to scrape a point in the standings from that one. And it was an overall pretty decent, pretty good performance. Today's episode, it's going to be, it's time to talk critically of the team, I would say. There's definitely two aspects right now that are glaring to me. Two aspects that have pretty much plagued us for the last 5, 6, 7 years, especially when it comes to playoff time. And so these right now, as of this minute, are my main concerns for the team. And they're the two biggest aspects that the franchise has to address. Either this postseason, next postseason, whenever you feel like winning a postseason, that's when you need to address this. And I think we all hope that this is the season that needs to be addressed, will be addressed. But we shall see. So let's get critical. Let's get critical of the Canes. I'll start with goaltending. I know that we recently, in fact, I think it might have even been last week, we spoke specifically about the goalies, mostly talking about Kochetkov, talking about Bussy. They've been very good. Obviously, they've had some good games, some bad games. They've had some wins and losses. Kochetkov has a lot to prove. He has a lot of weight on his shoulders if he ends up getting the majority of the call come postseason. He has a lot to prove, I think, still in the regular season. But all in all, I think Kochetkov is in a pretty good position right now. Bussy as well. Bussy has done more, I think, than any of us really have expected of him. And he, hopefully, if everything else goes wrong with the first two, goalies that we have, maybe we'll be lucky enough and can lean on Bussy to bail us out and have one of those debut unbelievable type of playoff runs behind it or in the crease, excuse me. But the glaring issue right now with goaltending, I think, is quite obviously Frederick Anderson, especially after last night, or not last night. Must have been Toronto or Boston, maybe. I can't remember who. I don't think it was Boston because we didn't give up too many against them. But anyways, recently Anderson was in a game and on a dump in, there was a sort of a dump in from the back blue line, from the defensive blue line, and there was a streaking forward coming up to try and make a play, and Anderson comes out of his net to do something to disperse the trajectory of the puck, mess up that cherry picker who was coming into the zone fast and pretty much alone and untouched. And so I get it. He steps out of the net to make a play to break up what was going on, initially into the entrance to the zone and break up whatever type of transitional play could have unfolded there. But instead of doing that, he passes it directly to the skater coming in on him. And, the guy makes no mistake and immediately pockets one. There's just, I don't know why I went into that specifically right out of the gate there, but the bottom line is Frederick Anderson is a liability at best, I would say, given his current state of performance. If he can prove me wrong, and I hope he does, then we and I really specifically need to start seeing a lot more consistency from him. I'd really, really like to see two things. I would like to see him go a considerable amount of time, so I'm talking more than a month. In reality, I'd really like to see him go 2 months, I'd really like to see him go the whole season. But let's start with a month. Let's get a month of starts in. And can we not let a goal in on the first 5 shots of the game that go against you? Really, the first 3. I say first 5 to make it, I think, a little bit more of a legitimate argument. But I can't tell you how many times I've felt or even taken notice that we're letting goals in the first 3 shots of a game. And it's kind of it's as a fan, it's debilitating, right? You watch your team absolutely own an opponent in their own defensive end, and skate circles around them, only to have a tricky change of possessions that leads to an odd man rush or even just an even breakaway, an even transition to the other end of the rink, and you're deflated as soon as the shot is taken and it gets right by him. I just, it's difficult to deal with this because Freddie Anderson is the guy who is going to get the majority, if he's healthy, is going to get the majority of starts on this roster. And have come to realize and figure out why that is. And is my best assessment as to why Anderson is favored so heavily, especially this current season, despite the much better performance I feel we've gotten from our other 2 goalies. I think especially this season and really all the seasons in the past that he's spent time with us, which has been about 5 seasons now. I think this is his 5th. Yeah, this is his 5th season with us. And it's the problem is we're behind before we even sort of end up playing some defense there, and I can't. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for me as a fan to watch this. It's frustrating to have what I feel is a pretty mediocre, pretty run-of-the-mill goalie who is treated like a starter, who's treated and given the minutes as a starter would. I get cringy, I guess. I like I said, every game that we end up letting a goal in. It was the Oilers. I think it was the Oilers that he had that pass directly to his opponent that resulted in a goal against him very early in the game. But it's mind numbing. I mean, I'll be frank. I'll be quite honest here. It's mind numbing to watch him that many minutes every year and see him struggle. And during the regular season, it's okay, as we know. You can get through the regular season with a pretty average goaltender who puts up pretty average performance night after night, and you can make it through the regular season. You can shine in the regular season, even with that type of player in net for you. But again, the regular season is just so different from the postseason, and that's the reason why it's okay and why you can get away with it. In the postseason, goal scoring goes down considerably. I would even venture to say exponentially, goaltending goes down. And the reason is because everybody's fighting for their last minute of hockey this season, and obviously for the ultimate prize in the Stanley Cup. But during any given shift or any given game of any given series, everybody's battling just for the next goal, and because of that, there's a ton of there is no tomorrow type of mentality. And so defenses close in harder, defenses close in heavier. They stop more, they prevent more, they get in your face more, they wear you down more. And this has to go, you have to go through this four full 7-game series every postseason if you want to ultimately hoist the cup. And so because of that, you really need to begin to rely on your goaltender to bail the team out when transitions and mistakes go in the other direction. And you can't really rely, in my opinion, on Frederik Andersen to do that. He let in two, and granted, these were 1-on-0s. I don't fully slight him for these goals, but again, 1-on-0s, you need those saves in very pivotal moments. There are plenty of pivotal moments in the postseason where goalies are outnumbered 1-on-0, 2-on-0, and they pull through for you. They bail you out. And that's huge in the playoffs. That's a momentum swinger. That's a momentum shifter. Whether you're home or away, that's a very big play to have come through from your goalie. But the reliability from Frederik Andersen is just not there. It's not demonstrated in the postseason. It's sort of demonstrated in the regular season because, again, you can get away with being a softer goalie. You can get away with letting a few behind you during the regular season games. We see teams do it all the time. The Canes just did it recently to Toronto, right? They were up 4-1 or 4-2 on us, and we ended up winning that game in regulation, I think, right? 5-4. But 5-4, 3-5, 2-3 even can be a fairly high scoring game in the postseason. And so that's why things become that much more critical in the postseason from your goalie, like I said. And anyways, let me get into the whole reason why I feel like we are seeing so much from Andersen and why we're sort of stuck with seeing him as this starting goaltender for us. Let me just give me a second. I'm trying to figure this out. So I'm on Puckpedia. So Puckpedia is a great place to go to look through all the information related to players. The salary that a player is making, the average annual value, that contract carries, and then anything to do with cap hits with regards to their contract. And then it also has a little bit, and what I'm trying to find right now is the bonuses and the underlying stuff that you don't necessarily see on the broad contract there. So here we go. So under the performance bonuses, so Frederik Andersen has up to $750,000 in performance bonuses. And it's funny, to me, it's funny that these are labeled performance bonuses because these are not performance bonuses unless you consider just going to work and clocking in a performance or a performance worth a bonus. Let me phrase it like that. Because his bonuses are based off of the number of games played that he has. They're not based off of a save percentage. They're not based off of like, hey, if you can get 5 or 10 shutouts this season, you get an extra $100K in your bonus, and for every 5 shutouts after that, you get another extra $100K. Or if you can post a .930 save percentage this season, we'll give you an incentive for $500,000. Or if you can keep your goals against average below 2.5, you got a cool 300,000 bonus. No. The performance bonuses that Frederik Andersen has are $250K for 35 plus games played, another $250K for 40 plus games played, so that's $500,000 if he plays half the season basically, and then another $250K for an Eastern Conference final, and Andersen plays 50% of the playoff games. So again, I'm only speculating here, but the way that's written and the implications as well behind this performance bonus that he has built into his contract sort of tells me that there is pressure on Brendamore, at the very least, to put him in net as often as possible. In the regular season, there's probably less of a pressure to do that, but clearly in the postseason, there is a pressure to do that, because if the Canes were to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and Andersen doesn't play 50% of the playoff games, then he forfeits that $250K bonus in the postseason there. So again, I'm speculating. Another piece of speculation I want to throw into the mix is the players are covered by a union, the NHLPA, the NHL Players Association. They're the entity that they are is it arbitration? They negotiate and arbitrate with the NHL and Gary Bettman. Every 5 or 10 years they renegotiate the terms of contracts and various mental health and personal health benefits and probably all the insurance benefits. They're like a union. They really lobby for you. They kind of go to war with you at a legal level with your employer, who happens for these folks happens to be the NHL, the National Hockey League. I'm sure that because of the function of the NHLPA to be an advocate and a supporter of the NHL players, I'm sure that there is a lot of pressure from the NHLPA on the front offices in Carolina to get Anderson in net as often and as frequently as possible. If he's healthy, lace him up, kind of thing. Again, especially in the postseason, because if we can, if we sweep through the Islanders or the Devils or whomever in the first round, that's only 4 games played. And then if we usually also keep the second round pretty tight, pretty 4 or 5, maybe 6 games. And now you've only played 10 games, which means Anderson will have had to have started 5 of them at worst, in theory, because going into the Eastern Conference Finals and you know what? That's why it makes sense. Like if we don't play him enough in those first 2 rounds, and we are in the Eastern Conference Finals, now there's a lot of pressure to get Anderson in net as many of those games as possible. And what has that done in the past for us? In my opinion, it's lost us 2 Eastern Conference Finals appearances. It's not even that. It's completely taken us out of them. I mean, it's an embarrassment when we show up to the Eastern Conference Finals and we lay an egg in the win column, or we win one game. In Game 4, we avoid the sweep in Game 4 and then just turn right around and walk out stage left in the very next game. It's absolutely mind-boggling to play Anderson for the first 3 games of those series and then turn to Kochetkov to try and bail you out in the 4th. Like and now I'm kind of getting pretty heated thinking about this too, because you're in theory throwing away an opportunity at a Stanley Cup, or at least the opportunity in the Eastern Conference Finals, to try and get a guy a performance bonus that was built into his contract. So I don't know if this performance bonus was built into any of his previous contracts, but he currently is on a 1-year deal with Carolina, and this is the performance bonus that's built into it, up to $750,000. That's $750,000 for playing a lot of games in the regular season, and then playing a lot of games and making it deep in the postseason. It's frustrating to see this. It's frustrating to discover this. All I can hope is that Anderson proves us wrong. Anderson has, sort of like Bobrovsky, right? Bobrovsky 3 years ago, well, 3 years ago, because they've won the cup now twice, but 3 years ago and beyond that, there was no stock in Sergei Bobrovsky. That guy was probably the biggest waste of $10 million before he finally found his game, and not just that, but found it consistently night in and night out in that postseason run just 2 years ago, and then followed up by last year's return. So let's hope that that's the case this season. Let's hope that Freddie Anderson finds and achieves some other level of his game that we have just not seen yet, in my opinion. And that is his entire NHL career. I'm not just talking about his time with Carolina. So again, I won't belabor it too much longer on him, but if he is the guy who is going to play the majority of games, there is a strong concern and it's been a lasting concern. But specifically within this season, that is a strong concern of mine for this team, especially come May, June, late April, if they are so lucky to make it. And then really another very big issue. These are both very big and glaring issues in my opinion. I would almost venture to say that this next topic is ultra glaring and ultra blemishy, because it's the worst they've been in the last 5 or 6 seasons. So it's the elephant in the room. Everybody knows what I'm about to bring up. The power play. The power play, you can't even really call it a power play. You got to take the word power out because there is nothing powerful besides really puck possession and face-off results when it comes to the power play. It is abysmal. It is gotta be, this is one of the most aggravating and annoying power play units to see night in and night out. And it's hard to admit that because Ehlers has been added to it. You have a full line of Jackson Blake, Logan Stankoven, Taylor Hall playing on the second power play line. It's tough to admit this, but it is somehow one of the worst power plays we have seen since the Rod Brenda era. And let me just pull up some of the information. So in the last 5 seasons, so this current season not included, and I do that for a very specific reason, so we'll get there. But going back 5 seasons, so 2020 to 2021, again, that was our first season after COVID. That was the bubble year. That was a very unique year, but overall, these stats I think still hold up. So the power play that season was running at 25.6% across 56 games played. 25.6% is pretty damn good. Pretty good. It's funny enough, ChatGPT listed as excellent / very efficient. Unbelievably, just for reference, the number one power play this season is the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they're operating at about 33%, which is I think kind of unheard of. Anything in the mid to high 20% is a very, very good power play. It's very solid. The following season in 2021 to 2022, again, this is the first season back to the normal schedule, the normal 82 game rotation, as well as your normal home stadium, home arena, and fans, all that. So 2021, 2022, the performance falls a little bit. They go down to 22.0%. This is still a very good power play. Anything above 25% or around 25%, you're scoring 1 in every 4 power plays, which really is about once a game you're scoring on the power play. I would venture to say that most teams end up seeing about 3 or 4 power plays throughout the course of a game, depending on how the night's going. And then anything closer to 20% is about 1 in every 5. So that one is probably closer to 1 every other game you can expect to see. In 2022 to 2023, they fall even more, down to 19.8%. Again, it's a decline, but it's still around that 1 in every 5 power plays you're getting a goal. The following season, and this in my opinion was one of Carolina's best opportunities at running for the Cup. In 2023 to 2024, the power play was clicking at 26.9% performance. That is almost 1 every 3. It's getting close to 1 every 3. It's still about 1 every 4, but you're definitely seeing basically a power play a game no matter what in that situation. Very good opportunity. 249 power play opportunities. Is fantastic. 2024 to 2025, there's a big drop. Carolina last season was at 18.7% on the power play. and it's not much better this season. In fact, it's horrible this season. I don't want to mince words right now. This power play is abysmal right now. They are operating at 12.5%. And they even just let off a shorthanded goal just last night, just the other night, against was it Minnesota, or yeah, I think it was Minnesota just last night. But that's bad. I mean, you 100% need better than that. That's you're getting a goal every 10 power plays in that situation, which in some cases is about one in every 3 to 4 games, I would say. And that's just not going to fly in the postseason. It won't. Honestly, if you don't have a 20% power play in the postseason, you're putting yourself in a disadvantage. At 12%, 12.5%, almost 10%, you're looking at, I mean, it just can't happen. There's not many opportunities to score goals in the postseason, especially 5-on-5. It gets that much harder to score 5-on-5. And so you really need to start leaning on your power play. Now, that being said, they obviously have an elite penalty kill. So when it's the other way around, they're clicking at about 80% success on the penalty kill. And I think that's kind of a down year for them. Their penalty kill has been exceptional over the last 7 or 8 years. And part of the reason is because they're constantly on it, because the refs like to just find stuff related to us. But that's a topic for a different conversation. But again, the bottom line here, the power play, they have got to figure something out. I was thinking about it today, and I was trying to come up with like what could they do, what should they do, what might they need to do. The best I can kind of think about it is right now, their puck possession is unbelievable. And what is Carolina known for just in general? One of the things that they're most known for is the number of shots they take. They take an enormous amount of shots on net, season over season, game over game. And so in the penalty kill situation, I really feel like the defense recognizes that, and instead of playing the man more like probably most defenses would, they're content with just kind of condensing into that box and right in front of their goalie and just putting their bodies on the line. And they're blocking tons of shots, tons of potential tip-ins, tons of passes through the slot by doing that. And they're not exerting a whole lot of energy. They're not needing to rely on a whole lot of vision. As long as you kind of stick to that box, everybody's kind of got an angle covered. And Carolina just has problems with liking to keep things around the perimeter until somebody has found a shot. And sometimes it takes a while for them to find that shot, and sometimes it takes so long that it almost forces somebody into shooting. And it almost always results in a block shot, a turnover from that, or even, a clear down the opposite end of the ice, and sometimes even a breakaway is what it results in. So, again, my theory, because of how everything I just laid out is structured, my theory is that we need to, especially with Ehlers on the team now, we need to start figuring out, or we need to start getting the guys comfortable, whoever the puck carrier is, get comfortable with starting to really move the puck around the ice when they give you that space. Especially if Ehlers has the puck. If Ehlers has the puck, I'd like to see him start dragging the puck around, moving it into the corners, moving it into areas that might drag somebody over to him. And then, create a system where you have a guy following right behind that, playing the weak side, the weak angle, so that Ehlers or whoever is carrying the puck, Aho or Svechnikov, can have somebody there to either dish it off from where they just came from, or make a pass from where they're standing, a direct pass from where they're standing. I think if they can do that, that'll start opening that center ice up a bit more, and it might hopefully give a bit more opportunity to guys at the point like Gostisbehere or Hall or Ehlers or Aho's at the point a lot. Hopefully it creates a little bit more for those people to potentially get one through, or even at least get one through for somebody to tip. It's again, it's a big deal. I know it's probably stuff that they're working on every single practice. I get it. Rod is a smart guy. He sees exactly what I see, what I'm saying here, what we all see. I mean, it's hard to. They're the second worst power play in the league, and they're, I think, the best record in the East right now. They're one of the top 5 or 10 teams in the league, and yet they have one of the all-time worst power plays going on right now. So it's no secret, right? Rod has got to be working through this with them. The front offices, I got to believe that everybody is working overtime on figuring out a way to solve this, figuring out what needs to be done. Again, my opinion, you really need people to start walking around, start dancing around with the puck, start getting that defense on edge, getting them a little antsy so they might jump off their line and come out of position and open up a slot for somebody. I'd really like to start seeing that. They're right now they're really just working the perimeter, right? Just working that perimeter, and when it goes from one side to the other, the bump out player steps out, and the previous bump out player now shifts down to the goal line to open up another pass. It's so predictable. I think that's why their power play is so bad this season, is because of how predictable it's been. Over the course of time, it's basically operated like this, and this season specifically, it is so incredibly predictable that they have to figure this out. They absolutely have to. If you want any opportunity to make it to a deep run and have a successful deep run, you have got to figure out the power play. And even the goaltending, something has to give on the goaltending. Again, if we get to May, if we get to June, and Anderson can play out of his mind, he can do things, like I said, that we have not seen before. Power to him. That's great. That is going to be a big, uplifting thing for the playoffs. But it's got to happen. It's got to happen one way or the other, whether you get it from him, Kochetkov, Bussy, whomever. Something's got to give in that capacity, and something has to give in the power play. If neither of those aspects of the team are addressed or changed in some positive way, it is going to be a sad and depressing postseason. I'm calling it now. It's going to be bad if there's no opportunity to score on a power play and there's no reliability on the back end when it comes to a transitional thing, early shots on goal, whatever it might be. So again, this team is good. There's a lot of great things about this team. There's a lot of scoring. There's a lot of offensive depth with this team right now. Nobody really is standing out yet in the leaderboards for like points, assists, goals relative to the team. Because everybody's kind of chipping in, everybody's getting their name on the scoring sheet, but those are two big glaring aspects on this team that have to be improved. They just have to be improved upon. And right now, there's a lot going on the team. There's a lot of injury struggle happening. There's a lot to come to deal with too, with the Olympics ahead of us and the 2 or 3 weeks off that most players will end up having. So there's a lot of runway ahead of us. There's a lot of time to fix all this stuff. But at this point in time, we're at the quarter season of the mark. We're at the 20-game mark. And that's a little bit of, I want to provide a little bit of criticality on the team today. And those are my two biggest things. Other than that, it's hard to find things to talk about this team in a negative fashion. Obviously, you got to take less penalties, but with how successful the penalty kill is, I don't want to say that's a non-issue, but it's manageable in the regular season. And in the postseason, it could, that could also give you a drive of motivation, a strong, heavy penalty kill at an opportune time. But yeah, goaltending and power plays we just have to get better. We just have to. There's no, we can't make excuses about it. We can't, pretend that it doesn't exist. We can't pretend that if we just ignore it, it'll go away. It won't. It hasn't, right? These have been issues either in the regular season or in any of the postseasons in the recent time. So something's got to give. Something's got to go on both of those. Some minds got to get, some smart minds got to get together in the office space and figure out that power play thing. And Anderson needs, I don't know, man, Anderson maybe needs to hang out with Aaron Rodgers or something to achieve that next level. Who knows? But anyways, thanks for listening, folks. I do appreciate it. Again, I apologize for being a day late here. I'm going to try and get the video up today. The audio should be up. If you're listening to this, it's obviously up on Spotify. But I will try and get the video up before the end of the night as well so that doesn't post late. But anyways, appreciate it. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, folks.